Those who know the right questions must reach those asking the wrong ones, and sometimes even the lost. I protect my identity because truth has a body count. Welcome to the Anarchist File. Let's get something straight from the jump. If you think your favorite creator cares about you, you've already lost. Not because they're evil, not because they're fake, but because they don't know you exist. That's the point. You know everything about them. You know their dog's name. You know their skincare routine. You know how they take their coffee, what they were wearing last Wednesday, and how they cried when their grandma died, and they don't even know your first name? That's the trap. You are not in a relationship. You are in an illusion engineered, edited, and optimized to make you feel like a participant in a story you are actually just financing. You laugh when they laugh. You cry when they break. You defend them in comments. You get jealous when they post with someone attractive. You feel it in your chest. Tactile, physiological reactions to someone who couldn't pick you out of a police lineup. You call this normal. You call it community. You call it supporting your faves. I call it delusion. And I don't blame you. The system was built for this. Influencer culture is not just content. It is a productized parasocial funnel, engineered to convert your loneliness into engagement. They give you the illusion of intimacy, just enough eye contact, just enough relatability, just enough I love you guys so much in the outro, and boom, you rehooked. Your brain, hardwired for tribal bonds. You can't tell the difference between real closeness and digital affection. You think you're connected? You think you're seen? But what you are is monetized. They didn't create for you. They created at you, and they studied you first. They learned your lingo, your insecurities, your rhythms, your pain points. They figured out what tone makes you feel safe, what pacing makes you feel close, what confessions make you feel like you know them. And now you do. You know them. Except of course you don't, because all of it, the lighting, the backstory, the bloopers, the crying, blog is curated. It's theater. It's narrative control wrapped in soft branding. And the second you forget that, you start making decisions based on fiction. You donate when they hint at struggling. You buy the merch because they worked really hard on it. You jump into fights on their behalf, convinced that protecting their honor is part of your personality now. You have been activated, not as a friend, not as a partner, as a customer, and the return on investment, you get to feel close. That's what parasocial relationships are, spiritual subscriptions. You pay with your attention and emotion, and in return, you get the illusion of proximity. But the proximity is one way. This is not friendship. This is not mutuality. This is content architecture so sleek it makes you forget where the stage ends and the person begins. In Gen Z, you were born into it. You never saw a world where public figures weren't accessible, where fame didn't mean you had a Discord server and a Spotify playlist and a burner. Twitter where you tweet in lowercase about being so tired, lol. You think intimacy means availability. You think connection means visibility. You think being seen is the same as being known. It's not. And the people who profit off that confusion, they know exactly what they're doing. They're not celebrities. They're emotional engineers. They know how to manufacture relatability and drip it out like morphine. They know how to craft vulnerability with just enough polish to feel safe, but never real enough to be risky. Because real intimacy has boundaries. And this doesn't. You'll spend hours a day with them. You'll listen to their voice more than your parents. You'll think about them more than your own goals. And when they fail, when they date someone you don't like, when they get exposed, when they say something out of line, you'll feel betrayed. You'll mourn a breakup that never happened. Because you were never in the relationship in the first place. So how did we get here? How did entire generations start mistaking performance for presence, attention for affection, and algorithmic warmth for human intimacy? Easy. You grew up lonely. And no one talked to me in gym class. Lonely, I mean existentially lonely, spiritually disconnected. Born into a society with no rites of passage, no rituals of meaning, no inherited culture except a timeline. You were raised by broadband. Your God had a glowing screen. Your sense of self was uploaded before it was formed. You never learned how to be alone because you were never taught how to be only, how to be seen. You didn't get a mirror, you got a front-facing camera. You didn't get silence, you got a content feed. You didn't get bonding, you got parasociality packaged as entertainment and disguised as identity. And because everyone else was doing it, it didn't feel insane. It felt safe. You learned to say we about people you've never met. You laughed at jokes made by strangers that felt like friends. You formed communities with no obligations and no cost, just vibes, just memes, just shared admiration for a person who would never know your name. That's not fan culture. That's spiritual outsourcing. Your longing got hijacked. Your desire for tribe, mentorship, love it, got rerouted into a streamable format. And the marketplace was ready. Because here's the secret. The influencer economy doesn't run on money. It runs on your emotional labor, your time, your loyalty, your feelings. You build the scaffolding for these creators to live on. You give them status, which they alchemize into income. And in return, you get, what? Emotional scraps. A comment like, a Discord ping, a 2-second nod on a live stream that makes your whole week because they saw you. You've been programmed to accept this, because the world around you taught you to expect less. From relationships, from community, from reality. When the sacred disappears, the screen fills the void. And it feels sacred. When someone tells their story with just the right pacing, when the editing hits, when the music swells, when the vulnerability is algorithmically controlled to create the illusion of intimacy, it triggers the same part of your brain that once attached to elders, peers, family. You're not just watching, you're imprinting. You imprint on your favorite YouTubers like ducklings to a bootleg mother, and it works, because the modern creator knows how to act like a friend. They know how to say, you guys mean everything to me, with the exact cadence that bypasses your rational mind and hits your oxytocin like a freight train. That's not a conversation, that's parasocial conditioning. And the deeper you go, the more confused you get, because you start organizing your emotional life around them. You schedule your days to catch the premiere. You replay their videos when you're sad. You check in on their Twitter like you're worried about their well-being. You treat them like family, but they treat you like scale. And I don't say that to be cynical. Some of them do, Corinne their way, but the relationship is still asymmetrical. It has to be. You're one of hundreds of thousands, maybe millions, and they cannot know you, even if they wanted to. But the illusion says otherwise. It says, you're special, you're early, you're one of the real ones. It's marketing language designed to hijack your loyalty, and loyalty is power. Because if they can get you to stay, you'll bring others, you'll defend them, promote them, evangelize them. You'll anchor your identity to their story arc and carry their brand like a tattoo across your digital presence. And when they grow distant, or blow up, or change, you feel abandoned. You'll say, they're not the same anymore. They forgot us. They used to care. But what you're really saying is, they stopped pretending this was mutual, and it never was. You're hurt because the illusion cracked, because the bridge you built with your emotions was never two-way. And in that moment, you either wake up or you double down. You either face the fact that you were never seen, or you just pick a new creator, start over, reset the fantasy. Because the need didn't go away, that's just the provider. So you scroll, you swipe, you find someone new who makes eye contact through the lens, someone real, someone raw, someone who just gets it, and the cycle begins again. Because the market is infinite, there will always be another digital soulmate to rent. And here's the most dystopian part. Creators know this. They know they're replaceable. So they perform harder. They share more. They open up just a little more each time, until nothing's private, nothing's sacred, and their very being has become content. They parasocialize themselves to survive. Because if they don't feed the bond dies. And if the bond dies, so does the platform. It's emotional capitalism with a body count, and no one wins. You burn out. You feel emptier than when you started. You cycle through identities like wardrobe changes. You measure worth by proximity to digital personalities. And you begin to question whether real connection even exists anymore. Then they lose their center. They forget where the performance ends. They start shaping their lives around the expectations of people they'll never meet. And when they stop performing, they disappear. Because authenticity without performance is invisible online. And that's the poison in the well. You're not chasing authenticity. You're chasing believable performance. And the system knows this. So it rewards performance with intimacy cues. It knows what makes a person seem real. Pauses, breath, soft eye contact, candid laughter, tears that fall on bead. It packages all of this into an experience that feels closer than your closest friends. Because your closest friends don't give you high-raise monologues every Tuesday at 8 p.m. They don't cry with a ring light on. They don't curate their trauma for so you grow distant from real people. You stop trusting friction. You stop tolerating awkwardness. You stop believing love is supposed to be hard, boring, non-linear, and that's how the trap seals. Because now the only intimacy you trust is screen intimacy. Packaged, controlled, passive, safe, but it's not real. And you know that. Somewhere in the quiet, when the content ends, when the stream goes offline, when the video closes, you feel it. That ache, that low hum of absence. Because your nervous system was tricked into believing it had something in, then it got nothing back. That's not love. That's programming. So here you are. You've wrapped your identity around people who will never call you back. Staked your worth on digital closeness that disappears the second the Wi-Fi dies. And redefined connection into something that requires no presence, no cost, no skin in the game. And now you wonder why nothing feels real anymore. This isn't just about emotional confusion. This is about ontological theft. Your very understanding of what it means to belong, to matter, to be seen, was lifted, replaced, and resold to you by systems that exist to farm your time. You don't just love these strangers, you build yourself around them. Your values shift based on theirs. Your voice starts to echo theirs. Your morals flex around the creator. You've elevated as your personality template. If they do it, it's fine. If they say it, it's gospel. If they fall, you fall with them. That's not inspiration. That's identity laundering. You are laundering your sense of self through people whose only qualification is that they are good at holding attention, not wisdom, not stability, not spiritual strength, just retention metrics. And the people designing these platforms, they know identity is the final frontier. If they can colonize that, if they can be the place where you decide who you are, then you'll never leave. You won't be able to, because unplugging won't just feel inconvenient. It will feel like annihilation, because who are you without your favorites? Without your fandom? Without your parasocial pantheon? You've built an entire emotional infrastructure out of borrowed personas and curated relatability. And now the real you, the raw, unfiltered, inconvenient version. You don't even recognize them. You've been taught to believe that identity is a menu. Pick a few interests, align with a creator, echo a few popular phrases. Boom. Done. Personhood complete. But that's branding. Not being that's costume. And the more time you spend online, the more you reinforce it. Every post you make is a subtle prayer to be recognized. Every comment you leave is a breadcrumb for affiliation. Every inside joke, emoji sequence, or stand tweetin', another layer of digital camouflage. You're not expressing, you're camouflaging. You're trying to be read correctly by people who will forget your ad in 4 seconds. And you've been trained to think that this is safer than real intimacy. That being understood by 20,000 strangers is more nourishing than being known deeply, inconveniently messily by 2 or 3 real people. It's not. You don't need more mutus. You need someone who knows your voice when you're not performing. Someone who doesn't need you to be articulate. Someone who will sit with your silence without needing to narrate it. But that kind of relationship doesn't scale. It doesn't happen through subscriptions. And it definitely doesn't happen when you spend 6 hours a day absorbing the emotional output of people who are paid to be more interesting than your actual life. You don't need more content. You need fewer simulations. Because that's what this is. High production value simulation. A hall of mirrors that reflects back your desires in 4K. Overlays them with soothing music, and sells it back to you as connection. You are not connecting. You are consuming performance and confusing it with intimacy. And this is where it gets dangerous. Because if you do that long enough, you start performing back. You start treating your own emotions as shareable moments. You develop instincts not for truth but for readability. You become your own influencer, curating your feelings into digestible updates. Your anger becomes an aesthetic. Your grief becomes a caption. Your joy becomes an angle. And slowly, the real you is crowded out by the marketable version. You become what they call relatable, which just means you're digestible, legible, profitable, no sharp edges, no contradictions, no sacred boundaries, just a personality flattened into a format. And the system loves you for it, because now you're not just a consumer, you're content, and you'll never leave. Because the deeper you go, the more people recognize the version of you that isn't even real. So now, if you stop, if you unplug, you lose everything, not just the creators you watched, but the community that formed around the simulation of you. The feedback loop dies. The comments stop. The DMs dry up. The digital hugs vanish. And that feels like death. Because your nervous system has been tricked into believing the simulation was home. But it wasn't home. It was just a high-definition waiting room where real intimacy goes to starve. So how do you break out? You stop performing. You stop looking at life through the lens of whether it's postable. You stop reacting to every emotion with a screenshot. You let some moments go unshared. You resist the urge to convert every experience into audience currency. You remember that presence is not a product. You talk to people who won't follow you. You cry without narrating it. You build things without telling anyone. You feel things that don't have a filter yet. You start becoming illegible. To the algorithm, to the audience, to your parasocial altar. And you let that be okay. Because being unreadable is how you remember what you actually are. You are not a fan base. You are not a persona. You are not a caption waiting to happen. You're a soul with a story no audience can contain. Let's not pretend this is easy. You've built your house inside the machine. And now I'm telling you to walk out to step barefoot across the desert of anonymity. Silence, boredom, and uncertainty. No hearts, no views, no sense of who's watching. Just you and reality and all its inconvenient mess. But that's the price of sovereignty. The parasocial trap is seductive because it asks nothing from you that's difficult. It offers the illusion of connection with none of the weight. You get presence without vulnerability, validation without reciprocity, familiarity without commitment. But here's the thing about weight. It grounds you. A connection that costs nothing is worth nothing. Love without risk isn't love. Intimacy that can be scaled to millions isn't intimacy. An identity that survives only in performance is not identity as costume. The escape begins when you stop being afraid of your own silence. Sit with it. Let the boredom stretch. Let the ghosts of digital closeness rattle the walls. Let the hunger for being seen surface and don't feed it. This is your detox, Your deprogramming, your return to real. You want to rebuild your instincts? Good. Start with discomfort. Every time you feel that reflex, check the profile, reload the feed. Scroll for a new voice to wrap yourself in? Don't. Instead, write something no one will read. Call someone who isn't online. Spend time with people who don't know who you follow. Learn how to talk again without referencing silence. Learn how to sit across from someone and say, "Here's how I'm actually doing," without trying to sound like a podcast. You have to relearn slowness, because screen intimacy is fast, clean, frictionless. It lets you bypass the awkwardness of being known too. Well, the creator never judges you. They don't see your bad days. They don't challenge you. They don't remind you of your patterns. They're safe, because they're not there. But real people, they're chaotic. They forget your birthday. They call you out. They get tired. They disappoint you in ways you can't meme your way out of. And that's what makes it real. You don't need another curated feed. You need friction, boundaries, history, people who know your worst moments and still stay. Conversations that aren't optimized for shareability. Stories that unfold over years, not minutes. You need a life that doesn't require applause. Here's how that starts. Cut the leash. Stop treating influencers like guides. Stop treating creators like therapists. Stop scripting your identity in other people's voices. Build your own mythology. Pick up the threads you dropped when you started centering your emotional world around strangers. That hobby you used to love before it needed a content strategy. That weird joke you can't post because it doesn't fit your brand. That opinion you stopped expressing because it might lose you followers. You are not an ambassador for anyone else's platform. You are not a marketing intern for someone else's personality. You are allowed to think thoughts that don't rhyme with theirs. You are allowed to disappear without explanation. You are allowed to be complicated, contradictory, and untangled. Your soul is not a niche. And the moment you start living like that, truly living, without scaffolding, you become powerful. Not because you'll go viral, because you stop needing to. You'll walk into a room and not need to tell anyone what you believe. You'll move through the world without checking to see how it will be perceived. You'll love people because they're real, not because they're marketable. You'll start to crave smallness. The unrecorded moment, the uncaptioned joy, the joke that exists only in your friend's kitchen, never to be repeated. This is what the machine can't touch. And that's why it trained you to forget it. Because it knows. The moment you stop outsourcing your connection to the feed, the machine loses its grip. You stop needing the updates. You stop needing the commentary. You stop playing along. And without your loyalty, the whole thing breaks. Because attention is the fuel. And you've been feeding it with your soul, but not anymore. You've woken up inside the dream. And you're walking toward the door. And what's on the other side? A life that belongs to you. Not to your audience. Not to your favorite creator. Not to the simulation of you that plays well in someone else's feed. Just you. The weird you. The one who doesn't always have the right take. The one who isn't always caught up. The one who goes quiet sometimes and doesn't explain why. The one who doesn't ask to be watched. That's your real self. And it's waiting. You know how you reclaim yourself? You go missing. Not in the self-destructive sense. Not in some romanticized digital suicide where you throw your phone in a river and vanish into the mountains. That's theatrics. That's still performative. I mean you quietly, ruthlessly, unceremoniously. Stop offering yourself to people who never earned it. You stop leaking your essence into strangers. You stop answering to an audience that only exists in your head. You stop shaping your joy around who might applaud it. And most important, to let them forget you. You give up the need to be remembered by people who never really knew you. Because that is freedom. Not being liked, not being followed, but being unclaimed. You become illegible to the system. Unreadable by the algorithm. Unpredictable to your past self. And for the first time in years, your nervous system calms down. You stop checking in. You stop checking out. You stop orbiting someone else's story arc. You start writing your own. You know that feeling when someone finally listens to you, not just hears you, but receives you, without agenda or angle. The feeling you've been chasing through comment sections and live streams and DMs from fan accounts. And it never lands, because it can't, because you were trying to get intimacy from a machine. But intimacy doesn't scale. Intimacy doesn't loop. Intimacy doesn't get edited. It breathes. It breezes. It breaks things sometimes. And you need it. You need it like food. You are not built to invest your entire emotional world in strangers who monetize your loyalty and call it community. You are built to sweat over someone else's silence. To fumble through real conversations. To miscommunicate and try again. To remember what someone smells like. To hold a friend's face in your hands and know they're not. Because they posted, but because they stayed. This isn't a speech about being less online. This is a call to exit the simulation entirely. To break the parasocial spell and return to a world that has been begging you to come home. Not with likes. Not with comments, with roots, with meals you make yourself, with hands you actually hold, with laughter that no one else hears. Because the best moments of your life won't be shotted. They won't be saved. They won't be time-stamped in the cloud. They'll be lived, forgotten, rediscovered in memory, years later, misshapen, messy, sacred, and no one will get them but you. That's real. That's what you're missing. And no influencer, no matter how real, can offer it to you. Because it was never theirs to give. It was always yours to reclaim. So start now. Don't wait for burnout. Don't wait for your favorite creator to disappoint you. Don't wait for the feed to get worse. Just stop. Be unavailable. Let the comments go unanswered. Let the feed rot. Let the spotlight go cold. You don't need a platform to exist. You need a kitchen table, a handful of friends, and a memory that isn't constantly being optimized for reach. You don't need another bestie on a podcast. You need to sit in the dirt with someone who doesn't know what a ring light is. You don't need another internet dad. You need to become the adult who stops performing and starts protecting. Your attention is sacred. It's not casual. It's not renewable. Stop wasting it on strangers. Start building with the people who bleed when you bleed. Start building with the people who remember your middle name. Start building with the person in the mirror who's still here, still waiting, still whispering. Please, God, make it real again. The story isn't over. This was the Anarchist File.